For better or worse, I try to keep things like super, super simple. That's all kind of been my mantra. So there's three things that from a revenue perspective, go-to-market perspective, that are like the three metrics that I really watch closely. None of this will surprise anyone, but I basically look at MQLs, which is, that's how I judge marketing. Are we actually creating meetings where people want to sit down and talk to us? Close deals. How many deals did we actually, how much revenue have we booked this year? And then an angle that's becoming, that's always been important, but I think in this particular job has become wildly important, is around retention. So we might, bring all these people to join and, pay for our services and all this stuff. But if they don't stick around for whatever reason, and there's many reasons, then we're fighting an uphill battle. It's if you got to find that balance.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Business of Learning podcast. My name is Ron Camargo, and my guest here today is Dan Chapman, who is a VP of Sales and Marketing at DocNow. Dan, thank you so much for being here and joining me today. Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you so much. Very good to be here with you. Looking forward to it.
Yeah, I'm super excited to have this talk. As everyone that might listen to this podcast already knows, I am Brazilian, and I had a very pleasant surprise that Dan lived in Brazil for a long time and speaks fluent Portuguese. We won't be doing that in the podcast, but that was just a cool note that I wanted to share with everyone. With that special note being said, Dan, I would love for you to share to everyone a little bit more about yourself, about the business, and obviously any context that you want to share for the listener.
Sure. So originally I was born in Brazil, in a beautiful city called Fortaleza. To a Brazilian mother, American dad, and but grew up in the U.S. So, but go back to Brazil all the time, love it there, and so forth. So these days, I've been working now for 20 years or so, and mostly have worked with small companies. I love startups. I love kind of once a company hits like product market fit, they're starting to get their first customers and stuff. That's my favorite stage of company. And so I tend to gravitate towards like new ideas, underserved markets, things like that. And so where I'm currently at is a company called DocNow. Great place, really super unique. My first time working in healthcare, which has been really eye-opening, a lot of fun. And we're also working with a very unique kind of target market. So the clients we have, the prospects we have, kind of they're not your traditional kind of like ICP that you can just sort of like dig up, find real fast, and then kind of go after. It's a little bit more nuanced than that. So that's been like a super interesting and challenging problem to solve. We are creating technology basically for the doctors, nurses, providers that go to nursing homes. They mostly deal with the elderly and stuff. So our technology is really like touching a lot of people, impacting a lot of people. And I've learned just so much about, what the practicalities that go on, and then learning how to, both market, sell to those groups, partner with those groups, customer success has all been, wildly fascinating.
Yeah, awesome. Very, very cool. And thank you for sharing all that. And I'll actually agree with you on a specific point that you mentioned of that phase of the startup where you get past that million point, product market fit is really, really awesome. There's so much room for growth. There's also so much room for mistakes to happen as well, which I'm sure we'll get into in some of the lessons that you've had from your career. Talk to me a little bit more about the differences that you've found now within DocNow and how they compare to past experiences that you've had, and how that created some of these challenges that you're mentioning, that it's not the usual, hey, just go after the market, find that person, have that conversation. It's a little bit more complex than that. Talk to me more.
Yeah, there's two really interesting kind of flip side parallels that are there, because it's a bit of a underserved market, because I think a lot of groups that want to create like a healthcare product, they're usually going after like hospitals or primary care. Those are like two huge kind of obvious markets, I guess.
Yeah.
And what we're dealing with is an area called post-acute care, more underserved. So on one hand, if you can find the folks that are doing this type of work, which there's a lot of them, there's millions and millions of people that work in this space.
Yeah.
You can create products that are tailored to them, and by therefore are very differentiated from other stuff. So the folks that are looking for this stuff, we're having trouble finding them. They have trouble finding us sometimes. And then that we meet, it's magical. We're all in the dark trying to find each other. So it's, I've experienced that previously in fintech and a few other places too, where groups were looking for this unique solution, but it
Mhm.
was just like a back office thing that no one had gotten there yet. And because we got there first, suddenly we had this magical product for them, and it was hard to find them, easy to
Yeah.
sell once we did.
It's like that Cinderella perfect fit. But once it
Exactly.
happens,
Yeah.
oh man, it's amazing. What do you think then? That's interesting. It's actually a pretty cool insight. What do you think then is missing for that connection of the people who are exactly looking for this type of solution, and you guys were able to provide that solution that's just creates some friction within that process?
Yeah, man, it's something I think about constantly, and I don't really have a great answer. I think
Hmm.
it's not that there's no software or products for these groups.
Hmm.
Sometimes it's things that get like, like a software that might get used for a hospital gets sort of repurposed for one of these types of groups, and they'll kind of like live with it, and they're cringing through it, and they're just kind of like, this is the way it is. And then you'll have providers like our founder. The reason he started this company is because he's a doctor, he works in this space, and he was just so frustrated with the tools that he almost quit. He almost said, "Oh, you know what? I'm going to go back to primary care. I'll
Hmm.
just deal with people in the office." Working at nursing homes is so hard because the tools are so difficult.
Hmm.
And so I think people just sort of like trudge through it. And there's just, you know, and then also the folks that build technology, they don't realize that this is there. There's not so many options, and there's other constraints too. So I think there's just like it's one of those things where it's like some places get like, for example, if you create sales tools, for example,
Sure.
there's a lot of them, and there's a lot of noise because there's just so many products, and
Hmm.
all
Hmm.
that kind of stuff, because every company has a sales team and every company needs sales tools and stuff.
Yeah.
So that's you can find the VP of sales at a lot of companies, but getting through the noise is harder. When
Hmm.
people don't see, when it's a market that people don't even really know much about, it's less obvious. So there's less people there also creating things. So just kind of like,
Mm.
it's almost a little bit of a flywheel of like, the conferences that we go to are smaller. There's, people are, a lot of people focus on, for example, in nursing homes, they focus on the actual nursing home, which is
Mhm.
important. It's, how do you run a nursing home? There's software for that. But then there's these people that go there and make the whole thing happen. And
Mhm.
those are the folks that people don't think about very much.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
I heard something recently that I think might actually have a connection with this, and you can let me know what your thoughts are, or if I'm just literally talking out of my behind. So here it is. I heard someone say very recently, in conjunction with what you just brought up of, hey, there's many different tools, many different softwares or VPs of sale. Like there is no lack for specific tools or specific things that you can utilize.
Yeah.
And this is what he said: the music is not in the piano. Pianos are all over the place. You can find pianos everywhere, but the pianist is what makes a difference. So how you use those tools, how that strategy works. So for example, I'll just compare it to your guys' case. The tool, it's there, but how do you show that you are the different pianist for these people to then be able to see the real value, get educated on how it's going to bring them an ROI, whatever it might be, save time, et cetera, right? And I wanted to, I think that popped into my head because being able to have that clarity and then that Cinderella moment once it does happen, I think can create so much more leverage for a lot of companies that is sometimes not thought about enough.
Hmm.
They're trying to think about, hey, like, here's how great we are. Here's all the amazing things that we can do. Me. And then they forget, hey, how do I actually show that this is for them, not for me? Do
Yeah.
you, do you see that often a lot? Or like,
All,
am I literally just, just
yeah.
saying something that doesn't make sense?
All the time. I think that's actually the art of creating a product that is for the person you're trying to create it for, because
Mhm.
it's so interesting to me, because I'm kind of in this unique role as well, where I'm doing both sales and marketing.
Mhm.
Those don't always, sometimes those get separated out to where, it's like, we'll figure out the marketing, you figure out the sales. I work a lot with our product team as well. And when we're coming up with a new product, oftentimes it's either a customer request. They'll say, we really need this to be in the system. And we'll say,
Mhm.
okay. So we go and start building it. And then later we're like, well, is anyone else going to use it? And then we're like, okay, start asking around. It is, yes, no. So we've built some products where it's like one group is using it, and then others are kind of like, don't really need it.
Mhm.
Then other times we'll stumble into something where we'll say, I think this is something that everyone might use, or a
Mhm.
large group of them will use. And we'll start building it in a way and build some, some excitement to where suddenly people are like, they're almost like they want it before it's ready because they're so excited about what we're building. So really thinking about, I mean, one thing we talk about all the time is workflow, use cases, all that kind of stuff. We really like the further, we have a little bit of an advantage because we have our founder is a provider. So every,
Mm-hmm.
several days a week, he's actually seeing patients. So, and he's using the tool. So he's kind of like, oh, that didn't work so well. Oh, this is friction.
Instant feedback. Yeah.
So, and he handles our product. So, he kind of, that's really helpful. But we still flop sometimes. We'll build something, we think it's super cool, and then we put it out there. We're like, oops, that was got some crickets there. But
Yeah.
in general, it's like, the things that we know what people kind of need. We hear it all the time. They'll say, oh, if we could just do this, it would be great. Write it down. We start working on it. Try to roll something out quickly and see where it goes.
I like that a lot. I like that a lot. And just shifting our conversation a little bit here now, Dan, into the growth of the company itself and how you actually are implementing your skills and everything else within the business in the day to day. What do you think are some of the biggest challenges that come with trying to get the company to grow at a certain pace, get to a certain scale, a certain revenue target, whatever that might be? And the reason why I asked that question is because I always like to highlight here is that what I always like to highlight is that businesses are not sunshines and rainbows, even though from the outside, for a lot of people, it looks like that. But on
Yeah.
the inside, as the leaders, there's a lot that we deal with. So if you don't mind sharing some of those, that would be very, very awesome.
Yeah. So for better or worse, I try to keep things like super, super simple. That's all kind of been my mantra. So there's three things that from a revenue perspective, go to market perspective, that are like the three metrics that I really watch closely. None of this will surprise anyone, but I basically look at MQLs, which is that's how I judge marketing. Are we actually creating meetings where people want to sit down and talk to us? Close deals. How many deals did we actually, how much revenue have we booked
Hmm.
this year?
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
then an angle that's becoming, that's always been important, but I think in this particular job has become wildly important, is around retention. So we might, bring all these people
Hmm.
to join and, pay for our services and all this stuff. But if they don't stick around for whatever reason, and there's many reasons, then we're fighting an uphill battle.
Yeah.
It's like,
Yeah.
if you got to find that balance. Um, when I like it, we did a branding project this year, and it was super cool. I got to put my creative hat on. It was probably one of the more fun things I got to do, and I
Hmm.
think it's made a really big impact on our brand, our logo, how
Hmm.
we're perceived in the market. And all of those are kind of intangibles. And I was meeting with a good friend of mine who's a sales leader, and he was saying, that's great. Don't forget that it's all about MQLs. And I'm like, yeah, you're right. It is. This may be enhancing that.
Yeah.
Maybe see our cool new logo and they're like, oh, this company looks fresh. Let's try it. Or
Hmm.
maybe not, but you've got to find the thing that's going to bring people to come sit down with you. You've got to find a way to close the deals, and you got
Hmm.
to find a way to
Hmm.
keep customers happy. And if you don't have that, you literally have nothing.
Yeah. Oh man, I actually really like how you position that. And I wanted to highlight something that you mentioned that I very rarely hear, um, and people don't usually frame it this way. You said the words trying to get people who want to talk to us as
Mm,
opposed to people we can pitch to.
without a doubt.
Oh man, like the amount of times I always hear like, yeah, we just need to get more people to sell to, me more people to talk to. Is like me to them. It's like, no, it has to be them to us. Like if we
100%.
make them want to have that conversation and then build from there, that's the huge difference maker that exists, as opposed to just, hey, yeah, just please hop on this call with me. I'm trying to sell you something. It's like people
Yeah.
are not gonna love you for that, right? So I really like how you frame that, and of course tying that to revenue coming through and retention. If your churn is very high, then of course, as you said, that's not going to be fun for anyone. But it's really awesome. But it's very refreshing for me to hear that as well. And I wanted to ask a question that I've asked almost everyone on the podcast, and I wonder where your mind will go with this. Given the business targets, goals, client acquisition goals, everything that you have, if you had a magic wand that could solve just one thing internally, that's in your control, not just funding from out of space, but in your control, something that's in your day to day that just knocks on your door. That's really, really annoying, a big challenge. You get that thing solved, all your goals for growth, revenue, client acquisition happen. What would be that one thing that you'd like to solve internally?
Whew. It's so what we've been working on for a long time and continue to work on is actually our challenge is sort of strange. I don't know if this is very helpful for other groups, but it's really around creating, curating, and knowing where our total addressable market is.
Mm,
We have an idea. We have because we know roughly, we've done some math on that, but I've never been able to construct a list of like, here are the 500 companies you should go after or something
mm,
like that. We have a lot of them, I think, or we have some of them, but it would be wonderful confirmation for me to be like, here is the definitive list of all the things you need. Like and then if I could put them all in a room, and
mm.
hey, here's some value. Everyone show up in this room, and we're all going to hang out. That would
Yeah,
that would solve. I think that would solve all of my problems for the next 5 years.
that's funny. The room part really awesome. What do you think that it's more so on the lack of clarity of who exactly they are, or more so where they are?
Where they are. It's some of the groups don't market themselves.
Hmm.
They're sort of like there's these groups that they do a lot of work. They've got a lot of people in their company, but because a lot of their work is based on relationships and they're going to nursing homes and all this stuff, they don't really feel the need to like have a website and like really, or even like believe it or not, like a lot of the folks that we market to have like Gmail addresses and stuff like that. So they're kind of
Hmm.
like personally they've built this sort of like side company that's grown to be a certain size. And
Mm,
I would love to talk to them, but they're kind of under the radar. So there's a
mm,
percentage that's doing that. And then there's a percentage that are just sort of like, um, I think because of this market that I'm in, maybe there's a lot of very mature companies that are larger and we're aware of those. But then there's a bunch of kind of like mid-tier ones that are sort of like coming up, growing, figuring
mm,
it, so like change their name a lot, or they'll kind of like reform and they're kind of like
mm,
they're this shifting thing that's hard to just put a finger on. So
mm,
challenges is a little bit unique because everywhere else that I've ever marketed to, every other company I've ever worked for where I do marketing, we could make a list. And sure, we would find stuff and there would be some surprises. But, if we were going after like the CPG companies of the world, well, you can pull that list in like 5 seconds. And
mhm,
now here's your list. And so that's one of them.
mhm,
I think the other one is like, if I could take like a step back from just like my personal day to day. I used an analogy last week that I had kind of forgotten about, but like I feel like in general business is sort of like basketball where you're like really constrained in the number of players you can have. Like
mm.
football, soccer, both football and soccer, you have a lot of players. So you can kind of be like okay, maybe that guy's not so
Yeah,
great,
yeah.
but overall the team's good. In
Mhm,
basketball, you only have 5 people on the floor at any time. So it's like,
mhm,
who are your best 5 players and do
mhm,
you have them? So that's the other thing is like whenever I'm thinking about like our team, I'm like, do we have the best five? And do we need to
mhm,
make an adjustment to have the best five? And
mm,
that's a super interesting thing to think about because you don't always have the best five. Can you get an all-star on your team that might make a big difference?
mm. And that's always comes back to, and correct me if I'm wrong here, it comes back to, for whoever we have and the amount of people that are able to put in XYZ amount of effort, how can we increase the output that is going to be coming from that effort, right? So
No.
as more leverage for each action that's actually getting taken. And of course, if you have the best all stars, then you're getting 10-1 returns as opposed to a 3-1 returns. It just kind of, it sounds to me like it goes back to that notion so that you can maximize that output, and then of course tackle all the other problems from there as
Without a
well.
doubt. Yep.
I really, really like that. Dan, I have one final question for you here. This has been awesome so far. And this question is actually not a question from me. It's a question from our last guest to you, and they had absolutely no idea who you are. So
Fun. All right, let's
here's
see.
the question. Can you give an example of how you live your company values on a daily basis?
Hmm. Wow, that's a really great question. Yeah, we have a few. I think that a few of the values that I try to embody. One of them is listening. So I try to really listen well to everyone I interact with and really hear them, take what they say, remember it, and then turn that into something valuable to them.
Mm,
So we really try to listen, and we don't always succeed. So that's something I try to do a lot, and I try to instill a lot too. The other one is, and this is a blessing and a curse, but it's, it revolves around grittiness or
Hmm.
being. I really enjoy being an underdog,
Hmm.
fighting against the larger groups, that kind of thing. I think it's really fun, but I think it creates a lot more work. So I end up, putting in a lot more time and effort than sometimes maybe some of my friends
Uh-huh.
do at other companies.
Uh-huh.
I think it's great. I really enjoy being super engaged. I really enjoy like working hard and stuff. So that's one of our core values too, is people that listen well and that are also like willing to put in the extra effort. And
Hmm.
that kind of fits me to a T. So that's
Yeah, that's awesome. Getting
yeah,
your hands dirty, and then the win is a little more sweet when it
little
comes as
sweeter.
well, right? It's just always nice, always nice. Dan, this has been so incredible. I appreciate you taking the time, of course, sharing your insights, your stories. Where should people go if they want to learn a little bit more about you, and of course, also a little bit more about DocNow?
Yeah. So for both, so I'm on LinkedIn. So if anyone's listening and would like to connect, feel free to look me up, Dan Chapman at DocNow. And then our website is docnow.ai. And so that we have all our information there too. So if anyone's curious about what we're doing, can hit us up there.
Amazing. I will leave as many links as I can down below here if you want to check that out and you're listening in. And if you enjoyed listening to this conversation, you want to hear more insightful conversations like this, please also hit the subscribe button and I will see you on the next episode. Dan, thanks again for your time.
Thank you.